Hello, as the title suggests, today I'm going to give you a breakdown on which Nihility unit buffs damage the most. This is of course subject to change, but the rest of the video should still stand. With the announcement of Mr. Jiaoqiu and the version 1 leaks of his kit, I assume many are curious on how well he performs against our current roster of debuffers. For this video, I'll be comparing him against Pela, Guanifin, and also Black Swan, who while not a dedicated debuffer can give us a decent understanding on how well he stacks against another 5-star Nihility unit. First, let's get a rundown on their kits, and after just do some quick math so we can see which character will be the best debuffer. If you want to see the results and the TLDR, there should be a timestamp to skip to. JQ and his talent Ashen Rose provides 15% vulnerability and additional 5 per stack, up to 5 stacks which can be obtained through various methods. His ultimate will set the number of said stacks on enemy to the highest number that is present on the field. The Z1 is kinda crazy and essentially gives allies a 48% damage bonus when attacking those who are afflicted with Ashen Roast. Pela, as we know and love, is Pela. In regards to her debuffing, her ult causes 42% defense shred, while her E4 reduces 12% ice res on her skill, which I will not be talking about. Guanifin seems to be the inspiration for JQ and also deals with vulnerability. She causes 7.6 vulnerability per stack, up to 3 or 4 depending on the Eidolon. Black Swan's skill inflicts 20.8 defense shred with her ultimate inflicting Epiphany, causing enemies to have a 25% vulnerability when it's their turn. Lastly, her E1 causes enemies and the res to be shredded if they have the corresponding dot. Let's get the easy one out of the way first and talk about how his Lycon compares to the go-to debuffing Lycon right now, that being Resolution Shines as Pearls of Sweat. Both have the same base HP, while Those Many Springs has higher attack and defense. For most people, the attack doesn't really matter as they build effect hit rate, speed, and sustain for the Pela and Guanifin. This is different for Black Swan as most use her in a dot team and as such focusing on her damage. But if you are based and use your Black Swan in a supportive manner, then Those Many Springs is actually a great Lycon as it applies vulnerability and also helps Black Swan build effect hit rate. As for JQ, unlike Black Swan who has a 65% base chance to inflict her Arcana, all his stuff is at 100%. Him getting 28% from his own traces, meaning he doesn't really need his own Lycon. Both Lycons are very good of course, with JQ's being best in slot debuffing wise for JQ, Guanifin, and Black Swan. While great on Pela too, it makes it much harder to activate her own energy trace without resolution, and as such she should probably be using Resolution Shines. And the 60% effect rate is also nice for all 3 characters. Now let's talk about the 3 main ways to debuff apps to understand how much damage is being increased per stack. First, we have the most common, that being defense shred or ignore. As you can see, the initial damage increase from low defense shred is quite low and lower than what is promised. But we can see that as we get higher defense shred, the more damage per stack is obtained. As you can see from looking at 0 to 10, it's only a 5.65% damage increase, while if we look at say 80 to 90, it is a 14.95% damage increase. Vulnerability and res pen slash down is much more common, but their math is quite simple. As you can see from the chart, every percent is the corresponding percent increase. So what do we get from this chart? Vulnerability and res pen slash down will perform better than defense shred until 85%-ish defense shred. While not being on this chart per se, defense shred also scales better if the enemy is higher level. As you can see with the white line right here, currently sits at around 85%-ish, which is the point where defense shred does become better if you're level 80 and enemy is 95. But if I were to make the enemy level 120, then defense will perform better once it's at 77% defense shred. This will never happen, but it's just something to note. Now let's talk about diminishing returns and what it is exactly. TLDR, every increment of a particular buff or debuff generally scales less as there's more of it. Now what does it mean to scale less? As you can see from the chart, it's a 10% damage increase every time on the vulnerability and res downside, while on defense it's actually increasing. So how is there less every time? Well, if we look at the math right here, comparing say 70 versus 60 for defense shred, we have an 8.5% damage increase. But say once we get to 80 versus 70, it's actually 9.35%. So defense shred in this game is actually the only thing that doesn't actually have say diminishing returns. But now if we're looking for vulnerability slash res pen from 70 to 60, it's a 6.25 damage increase, but from 80 to 70, it's only 5.88%. Now, after looking at these examples, does it matter? No, not really. While vulnerability and res pen technically have diminishing returns, they still perform better than defense shred at almost every level, and even though defense doesn't have diminishing returns. Well, now for the part you've probably been waiting for, but if you skip here, then well, hello again. Now let's look at the various configurations of Lycone stacks and scenarios and whatnot. Let's actually look at Pela initially with resolution and her ult to get a baseline. This provides your DPS or your team generally a 45% damage increase. So how does it compare to Mr. Jiaoqiu? As you can see, with a free-to-play configuration, it's actually a small damage increase versus Pela. His Lycone, as you can see, only around 5% damage with max stacks compared to resolution shines. But once you get his E1, that is a massive spike in damage, nearly tripling your damage for your ult with max stacks compared to, say, Pela. I will briefly go over Gunnifin with Jiaoqiu's Lycone. She actually performs slightly better than Pela, but due to it needing to get more stacks and you having to build it up, having max stack uptime is a bit unreliable. But she's actually a great side grade of Pela though. Now, with Black Swan. While there are the best case scenarios with both E1 on the enemy turn, it isn't guaranteed to occur and as such can only happen to one enemy at a time because it has to be their turn. Generally, she provides a bit of defense shred and as such kind of pales in comparison to say Pela and Gunnifin, let alone an E1 S1 Jiaoqiu. Though I must say, she will probably be a monster paired up with Jiaoqiu in a dot team. Now, the conclusion. TLDR, if it's free to play V1 Jiaoqiu, he's gonna be slightly better than alternatives and quite a bit more than, say, Black Swan. But not free to play makes him much better than the alternatives. And that's all there is to it. If you watched it this far, thanks for watching, and maybe I'll see you next time. Peace.